And in this day where initials are the in thing, he's known as TD, or Touchdown Tony. If you don't know the man in question, he's Pittsburgh running back Tony Dorsett.
He's the fastest football player that I've been around in person.
Dorsett has blazing speed to the outside.
He is a legitimate anywhere from a 4.35.
Well, they also have a player this year that probably is the best of all of the Pittsburgh Panthers. His name is Tony Dorsett.
In the world of sports icons, no one captivated the imagination quite like Dorsett.
This young man is a three-time All-America, and he is also one of the leading candidates for the Heisman Trophy.
Being Tony Dorsett, they started calling me TD for Tony D and for a touchdown.
He's 5'10" and weighs in at 190 pounds. His career rushing total of 6,082 yards also surpassed the NCAA record held by two-time Heisman winner Archie Griffin.
Tony Dorsett was electrifying. A speed go-to was dangerous with the ball in his hands.
A lot of people talk about speed, but there's not a whole lot of people that can actually run that fast.
The longest touchdown run from scrimmage in the history of the franchise. Look at the...
He's just a natural, fluid runner.
He made defenders grasp for air.
Bouncing off a picture.
Got natural abilities there. You know, you can't teach it, you can't coach it.
A lot of times I'm not seeing numbers. I'm not seeing bodies or where they're coming from. What I'm doing is seeing colors.
He can find the open crack, and once he hits that crack, if he has daylight, there's not too many people in pro football that will be able to catch him.
Oh, my gosh. How do you do? I don't believe it, but I saw it.
Dorsett was like a musical.
And he just doesn't look that fast to me because he really glides.
Who perfectly harmonized to the beat of his own drum. His feet were his fingers.
He does that little stutter step, reverses his field, cuts it back. You see that quick little darting move? That's the one that makes a defensive back miss.
The ground was the strings of his own instrument.
Look at that move right there. Looks like a Baryshnikov in cleat.
Once called the prettiest runner in football.
All fluid, all grace. There you go. Give it 5.
Dorsett, an American icon.
There is no doubt in my mind that Tony Dorsett, and I still call him that, is the greatest college running back I've ever seen.
Certainly the greatest that I ever saw, and I've seen a lot of football.
Perhaps the greatest running back ever to play the game of football, Tony Dorsett.
Wes and Murder Dorsett moved to Aliquippa, North Carolina in the 40s to find work at the heights of World War II. In 1954, the Dorsetts gave birth to Tony Dorsett, born in the steel mill town of Pennsylvania on a hillside just outside of Pittsburgh. Dorsett was the 6th of 7 children. The Dorsetts ended up moving and settling down in Hopewell Township, a government project for black families and minorities. Watching his brothers play football was how he fell in love with the game. In 1970, as a sophomore in high school, Dorsett was assigned to the cornerback position because his coaches thought he was too small at 147 pounds to play running back, which was his position during junior high. The following year, Dorsett really secured the position after scoring a 75-yard touchdown on a screen pass against Albridge in the season opener. High school Dorsett was raw. This kid was doing things on the football field that no one was doing. When people around town heard about this young kid from the projects, they packed the bleachers. Record-breaking crowds of 7,000 people would show up all over town to watch Dorsett run. In his first year ever starting in high school, he made All-State. In 1972, he made the All-State team again. He set a single-game record when he ran for 247 yards against Sharon. He had the single-season rushing record with 1,238 yards. He set the career high school rushing record with 2,272 yards. Dorsett was heavily recruited coming out of high school. He had over 100 college recruits. Penn State was Dorsett's first choice. Joe Paterno was a legend.
Nittany Lions are the national champions.
109 for Joe Paterno.
And Dorsett was a huge fan of his. But Paterno already had a good back, John Cappelletti. He was going to make Dorsett the starting cornerback. That didn't fit well with Dorsett, so he took his talents to the University of Pittsburgh, his home college. People thought he lost his mind. You gotta understand, when Dorsett went to Pittsburgh, they were considered one of the worst football programs in college.
Navy has won 4 out of 5, while the Pittsburgh Panthers have had a dismal season.
They only won 1 game the previous year. It had gotten so bad that Pittsburgh was planning on dropping out of the NCAA. But little did they know, a small kid of a Mills worker from the projects was going to help revolutionize Pittsburgh football program and turn it into a powerhouse. In Dorsett's first collegiate game, he had 100 yards against the nationally ranked Georgia Bulldogs. The next 2 games, he had over 365 rushing yards against Northwestern and 211 yards versus Syracuse. In just 3 games, he ran for almost 700 yards. Before Dorsett arrived in college, the NCAA had legendary players who put together phenomenal collegiate careers. But Dorsett was about to do something that no back has ever done since 1944, when a war hero and a Heisman winner, Doc Blanchard,
football history closes as Doc Blanchard receives his diploma from General Taylor.
Led the country in yards as a freshman. Dorsett ran for 1,586 yards in 11 games.
Young Tony Dorsett of Pittsburgh ran for more yards than any freshman in football history.
He gained 1,586 yards, broke the Pitt career rushing record in 1 freshman season.
And led the Pittsburgh Panthers to his first winning season in 10 years. He was Pittsburgh's first All-American selection since 1963. His 1,586 rushing yards at the time was the most ever recorded by a freshman. The next season, Dorsett was on everyone's radar. In just 3 games into his sophomore season, he became Pitt's all-time leader in career rushing yards, surpassing the old record of 1,957 yards set by Marshall Goldberg, who helped Pitt to a national championship in 1937. Yet that second season was his most challenging one. He was a marked man. Every defense wanted a piece of Dorsett. Although banged up for the majority of the season, mostly due to dirty late hits, he still managed to run for 1,000 yards rushing and was 13th in the Heisman race.
Pittsburgh has been a great deal to me. You come here and so many things that happened to me in such a short time. You know, I just love the place.
The year, Tony Dorsett could become the first player ever to rush for over 1,000 yards 4 consecutive seasons.
Pittsburgh was still trending upward and was quickly becoming one of the best teams in the country. The next season, Dorsett would have his revenge. He put on an extra 7 pounds. It was now 180 pounds. Those extra pounds made him unstoppable. In his 3rd year, he dominated. In a game versus Notre Dame, in front of 56,000 fans, he ran like a wild man.
Are there any similarities like Notre Dame going against Southern Cal with the great Ricky Bell? You've got to go against Tony Dorsett, one of the great runners in the country.
Well, I don't think that I can take anything away from Tony Dorsett. I would say this, I feel that our defense is more healthy today than it was against Southern Cal.
On a nationally televised game, Dorsett ran for over 300 yards, breaking his own record.
Back, Gavin over the option end. Dorsett took it and ran out of bounds. Luther Bradley 20 and Tom Lefesky 26 on the corners for Notre Dame. Dorsett down. Outside to the 45-40. Tony Dorsett putting it on. Luther Bradley trying to cut him off. Bradley pulls him out of bounds at the 3-yard line. 57-yard run by Tony Dorsett. It's a real good move here.
What do you do to try and defense a guy like Dorsett?
Trying to turn a corner left. He's got the first down. Let him go.
Such a thing as keying on a Dorsett? I think you play defense and hope for the best.
To the 50, coming back to the inside 45-40. Touchdown! Another brilliant run. A brilliant run. 71 yards, Lindsay. Tony Dorsett displaying his All-American ability is broken and loose. Dropping back to throw. Straight over the middle.
If he got out in the open, forget it.
Rodney Clark is at the 20. Dorsett, it's Dorsett. Dorsett's gone. Dorsett it is, and he's gone all the way. A 50-yarder. Well, probably the best performance that a Pittsburgh team has had in years and years. Tony Dorsett got over 303 yards.
Well, I'd have to see it to believe it, Paul. And he, an outstanding back, and I'd have to congratulate him. At this point, of course,
It was the most yards a player ever had against the Irishman. He averaged over 13 yards per carry.
The 41st Annual Sun Bowl from historic El Paso, Texas, where today the University of Pittsburgh goes against Kansas University. Johnny, I watched the Pittsburgh-Notre Dame game, and it was all Tony Dorsett. 303 yards rushing, an all-time record for Notre Dame. He also caught 2 passes for 74 yards, and what I feel was one of the greatest college performances of all time. Little pitch to Dorsett, sweep right. T.D. Dorsett, they call him. He scored 38 career touchdowns. He's rushed for 1,544 yards this year. Look at that quick catch. Dorsett's going to have the first down and then some. In fact, he's the first legitimate freshman All-American in 29 years. A 3-time All-American. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards in all 3 of his seasons here at Pittsburgh. Tony Dorsett scoring his 39th career touchdown.
He has a shot, actually, of breaking Archie Griffin's career record.
It was his second 1,500-yard season in 3 years. Dorsett was devastated when he didn't win the Heisman. It was one of the first times in college history that a back who averaged over 140 yards per game wasn't the Heisman winner. After that 75 season, Dorsett was a budding star. Dorsett was quickly becoming a household name.
At the University of Pittsburgh, Tony Dorsett became a household name to football fans of all ages.
In a season filled with upsets and surprises, Tony Dorsett is one of 23 outstanding young men.
His senior year would be one for the ages. Griffin ran for over 5,000 yards in his collegiate career, but Dorsett wanted to be the best there ever was. So he said something that made everyone in the press look at him like he was crazy, a lunatic. How about 6,000 yards? 6,000 yards. Yeah, you heard me. 6,000 or more yards for my career. Dorsett only had 1 year to go. At this point, he had 4,134 rushing yards. He needed to put together the most yards in college history in a single season. Before '76, only 2 backs ran for more than 1,800 yards. Ed Marinero did it in 1971. Ricky Bell did it just 1 year prior in 1975. But none of those backs had more than 1,900 yards rushing. If he was going to get more than 6,000 yards on his career, he had to at least rush for what Bill had last season, which was 1,875 yards. Dorsett was out for the record. He wanted to break the single season rushing record as well. And he didn't just want to break it. He wanted to shatter it, which means he had to get over 1,900 yards rushing, a feat that no player has ever accomplished in the history of college football. The press got quiet. He wasn't serious, right? Dorsett was dead serious. The first game of the season was against Notre Dame.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Fleming, speaking to you from the sideline here in one of the most famous structures in all of football, the Notre Dame Stadium. Now, if he averages 94 yards a game, he can move ahead of Archie Griffin as college football's all-time leading rusher.
In front of the country, Dorsett electrified the nation on his first carry and showed viewers why he was the best back in college.
Here's Willie Taylor, number 29. Play of the ball game. Dorsett, and he breaks it over the left side, and he may go. How do you do? I don't believe it, but I saw it.
College reporters were calling this game one of the most important games in years.
Haygood coming down the line, delivers it to Dorsett. Here he goes. Great block, and he scores.
Pittsburgh ended up dominating Notre Dame. Dorsett left the game early. He had over 181 yards with 8 minutes left still on the clock. A few weeks later, Dorsett played Miami and dazzled the fans.
And in this day where initials are the in thing, he's known as TD or Touchdown Tony. If you don't know the man in question, he's Pittsburgh running back Tony Dorsett.
He's the fastest football player that I've been around in person.
Dorsett has blazing speed to the outside.
The next game against Navy was one of the most important games of Dorsett's collegiate career. Dorsett needed 152 yards to break Archie Griffin's career rushing record. When history hung in the balance, the kid from the projects seized the moment. Dorsett ended up beating the record.
illustrious ground gainer in NCAA history, already has 9 records in the NCAA book. He is within reach of 18. He has rushed for over 3 miles. He has that kind of speed we talked about. Gets a block from Hutton. Makes a tackle down the sideline. Touchdown, Pittsburgh.
All of college football was asking about a young 160-pound Pitt freshman running back who shocked the nation's fans by rushing for 265 yards. Who was this freshman phenom? His name, of course, was Anthony Drew Dorsett. And today, 3 years and some 5,000 yards later, there isn't a football fan in America who doesn't know about Tony Dorsett. He holds 9 all-time NCAA records, 27 all-time Pitt marks, and to repeat his statistical accomplishments would only serve as an injustice to his larger meaning to college football, and Pitt football in particular. They began playing football at Pitt 86 years ago in 1890. And although Pitt has one of the most storied names in all of college football, the university has never chosen to retire the number of one of its players. But that ends today. The number 33 will never again be worn in this stadium by a Pitt football player. No Pitt player will ever again wear number 33, because there never again will be another Tony Dorsett.
Dorsett was a bona fide star. Every team in the NFL had their eyes on Dorsett. But Dorsett's legendary season wasn't over.
Tonight, the number 1 ranked Pittsburgh Panthers featuring Heisman Trophy candidate Tony Dorsett.
Also, a lot of eyes tonight will be on number 33 for the Pitt Panthers. Perhaps the greatest running back ever to play the game of football, Tony Dorsett. The ironic thing here is that Dorsett, when he was in high school, would have preferred to go to Penn State. He felt, however, that they did not recruit him heavily enough, so he wound up with Johnny Majors at Pittsburgh, and consequently he became the greatest runner in college football. On this play, a typical Tony Dorsett run against Navy this year, Dorsett broke Archie Griffin's all-time career rushing record to be the greatest runner in football.
At the 6. To Dorsett. Dorsett has 6 points. Chris? 2nd down and 6 from the 16. Dorsett.
Surprisingly enough, he's a better north-south runner than he is east-west runner.
That's why he's a career rushing record holder. Tony Dorsett pops one from his own 8 out to the 30. 2nd down and 6. Dorsett 4 yards. He has the ball again. Dorsett. Score tied. Kavanaugh. Dorsett.
On national television, it was the talk of 2 legendary coaches colliding with each other. In the first half, Penn State had Dorsett's number. Dorsett's only had 58 yards in the first half. In order to counteract how Penn State played them in the first half, he put his offense in an unbalanced line using a rare formation. He lined up Dorsett as the deep back in the AI formation, kind of like a fullback. Dorsett ran like he had a case of that speed disease that his brother had years ago.
He can find the open crack, and once he hits that crack, there's not too many people in pro football that will be able to catch it.
There he goes! Come on! 40 yards! His 55th touchdown of his career, 40 yards. He has just broken Glenn Davis's record of most career points scored, 354.
He ended the game with 224 yards. After that game, Dorsett was told that he won the Heisman Trophy. But again, he wasn't finished. A kid who lived in the shadows of his 4 brothers, whose father worked in the mills, and a religious mother who taught her kids the narrow path, was about to dazzle the nation one more time as a Panther. When Dorsett was young, his father prophetically, unintentionally gave him a nickname called the Hawk because he always had big eyes looking at everything around him. Little did his father know how prophetic those words were. The Hawk had tremendous vision. He once said that he sees colors like a hawk.
Bouncing off a Patriot.
Pittsburgh, out of the East, a team put together by Johnny Majors and his coaching staff 4 years ago, and here they are today playing for the ultimate achievement, the national championship.
A great challenge in trying to stop Tony Dorsett, Heisman Trophy winner, a young man who is the leading rusher in the country, leading ground gainer in 1976, leading scorer.
5 out of the eye, the pitch goes to Tony. He gets 1 block, he gets 2 blocks. Thing, and that Kavanaugh hands the ball to Tony Dorsett.
Look out!
Georgia 48, Kavanaugh, Dorsett, missed by 1.
Did he turn on the Jets, or did he turn on the Jets? Did he accelerate when he got that ball?
Dorsett.
There it is.
He is a legitimate anywhere from a 4.35.
To Dorsett.
Oh, look at that move.
He kind of slips and slides, and then when he sees it, he's gone.
Now you can see the cutting ability and the speed of Tony Dorsett. Look out. Uh-oh. Wow.
Dorsett's got the ball.
You can see the speed that he has as he runs away from tacklers.
Dorsett flew by Georgia's defense, gaining over 200 yards in the championship. They blew out Georgia 27-3. By the time his collegiate career was over, Dorsett was an All-American in each of his years in college.
During his career, he rushed for a staggering 6,082 yards and 55 touchdowns en route to 18 NCAA records and 27 pit marks. His landslide win in the Heisman Trophy balloting was the second largest in the history of that prestigious award. Simply put, Tony Dorsett is, by all measures, the greatest runner in the history of college football.
Yet, there were still doubts about if Dorsett was big enough to play in the National Football League, even though he had more attempts rushing in the football than any running back in college history.
It's been proven that a small back can play professional football. Look at your Greg Pruitts, Lydell Mitchells, Terry Metcalf. So these guys are going out and they're doing just as good or better than your big, strong, powerful back. So I'm not really worried about my size as far as being a professional football player.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any question of that. There's going to be a lot of bidding for free agent players. The knack is going to be to pick the ones that are the good ones and not the bad ones.
In the past, you've had the theory of going after the best athlete available. Now, most people seem to recognize the fact that you could use some help in the backfield, at running back, and also in the line. Could this be the first year after all this time that you vary from that past procedure?
No, we're not going to vary from that procedure. We're still going to take the best athlete.
Just before the NFL draft, Dorsett told the Seattle Seahawks that he didn't want to play for them. Seattle traded away their draft pick to the Cowboys. It was the first blockbuster trade in Cowboys history. Dallas gave up a first-round draft pick and 3 second-round draft picks. They moved into second place and drafted Dorsett.
The more entertaining divisions in professional football the last several seasons has been the NFC East. The Cowboys, the Redskins, and the Cardinals have waged their own version of a holy war, with the Giants and the Eagles always bringing up the rear. But this year, the Cowboys have been established as a heavy preseason favorite to win that division because on the day of the draft, without disturbing their team, they were able to give to Seattle 3 draft choices in exchange for a Heisman Trophy winner.
Dorsett was the first $1 million player in history. It was the richest contract in Cowboys history and the second richest contract for a running back in NFL history. Dorsett revolutionized contract deals. He put value back on the player instead of the draft pick.
I wasn't looking for anyone to sign me right away anyway that time. And matter of fact, the approach that Mike did take it was an approach that I didn't like, and we sat down and we discussed that matter for quite a bit. And whatever happens or whatever deal I get in the contract, I don't want it to be a public issue. I think everything from here on will be sort of quiet and low-keyed. It would be nice to have everyone bidding.
But his arrival in Dallas didn't go as planned. There was no trumpets, no music playing. No one was heralded as the great Heisman winner. When he finally arrived at camp, reporters weren't the only ones who doubted his future. His teammates had doubts.
You see him for the first time, you're wondering, what? This little guy? And then you're a little skeptical because now he's in the pros and you look at his small stature and you're wondering if he can do the same things on a professional level that he did on the college level.
If that wasn't bad enough, Dorsett ran into issues over scheme with Tom Landry. It was a custom in Dallas that rookies had to sit out their first year. Dorsett took his frustrations to the media.
Definitely, I think that from my style of play, if you check my past history, the longer I play, it seems like the stronger I get, and I feel that no matter what running back or who you are, and I feel as a running back, the longer you're in the ball game, I think that's the greater the percentages of you breaking a long run or doing something positive.
They talk about size. He's run the football more than anybody in the history of college football and never missed a game. And he has gained more yardage than anybody. His statistics show what a phenomenal player he is. He stays strong when other people get weak.
The big thing, of course, is to be able to start and...
I'm not accustomed to being second, third, or fourth, he said. Dorsett also didn't like how Landry was trying to dictate his running style. Well, that didn't last long. He told his linemen that we have something different here. Let Dorsett be Dorsett. Landry threw out his scheme once he saw how Dorsett played, and he allowed him to be Dorsett.
A lot of people talk about speed, but there's not a whole lot of people that can actually run that fast.
He's just a natural fluid runner.
That year, Dorsett had one of the best rookie seasons in league history.
Watch the cut at full speed here. And now he sees the flag, and you can forget it now. Now he sees the flag, and you can forget it now. He runs a 4.35. He has been clocked that fast. He's one of few guys who has ever run the 40-yard dash that fast. Some pro scouts have clocked him at that.
We have never had the real big back, the breakaway back, the back that can make the big play. We've just been lacking that one added dimension. I think that is the dimension that will be added to the Cowboys by Tony Dorsett.
Dorsett had 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns in his rookie season. He won the Rookie of the Year.
So they traded their place in the draft with Seattle. Tony Dorsett has been all that he was acclaimed to be.
Dorsett's impact was such an immediate one that he helped lead the Cowboys to their second Super Bowl win since 1971. It was the first time that a player had won a championship and a Super Bowl in back-to-back years. You gotta understand. Before 1976, Landry had what I consider the greatest rushing philosophy in NFL history. From 1961 to 1975, Landry had a top 10 rushing offense in each year and 4 number 1 rushing units. But Dallas went from being 5th in yards in 1975 to 12th in 1976. Dorsett's arrival brought the Cowboys' rushing attack back inside the top 5. When Dorsett first got to Dallas, he was beyond popular.
What can you say? This is complete, total, utter domination.
Dorsett took in every bit of it. The fast cars, mink jackets.
I choose to be born again.
His hairbush and bigger-than-life demeanor brought swag to Landry's backfield that wasn't there since the days of Dwayne Thomas. Dorsett and Pearson battled in '77 for the starting position. Pearson, a legend in his own right, brought out the best in Dorsett. In 1978, Dorsett won the spot and never looked back.
Saw back. Ball deflected. Then it's here by number 33, Tony Dorsett.
He's the fastest football player that I've been around.
Boy, is he a sweet little runner. No, he's not bad. All fluid, all great.
A lot of people talk about speed, but there's not a whole lot of people that can actually run that fast.
He was third in the league in rushing yards. Dallas went back to the Super Bowl. It was their second Super Bowl visitation in 2 years. But it was in '81 when Dorsett was at his best. Perhaps one of the most memorable seasons in NFL history.
Surprisingly enough, he's a better north-south runner than he is east-west runner.
He was second in the league in rushing yards.
Set down the sideline. Stays in bounds. Can you believe that?
And from 1981 to 1985, Dorsett had elite seasons, racking up over 6,000 yards in that time span, along with 30 touchdowns. Hawk changed the league. He was the epitome of those 70 Cowboys teams. At a time when big running backs dominated, Hawk showed the world that it wasn't about physical structure that gets it done, but the heart, the grit, the lessons that he learned back in Pittsburgh on the small hills of Aliquippa, living with a dad who worked at a factory mill. When you think about it, before Dorsett, Dallas hadn't won a Super Bowl in 6 years. They went to 5 conference championship games in 6 seasons and played in back-to-back Super Bowl wins, winning 1 of them. Even when giants like Roger Staubach and Drew Pearson retired, it was on the legs of a Pittsburgh kid that dragged bad teams of the 80s into competitors day in and day out. A trendsetter who not only defied gravity but also defied the odds and ran straight into the record books. Before Dorsett retired, he had the second all-time numbers in rushing yards in NFL history. He also led the Cowboys in rushing yards. I don't think there was a kid who lived in the 70s and 80s who didn't want to be like Dorsett. His legacy has stood the test of time. Until next time, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.